Well, look who's back. Look who's fucking here. It's G-May. You guys, we are very close to finishing out the Harius episode. Part 1. I've been really wondering a lot in this story here. And as I've been wandering around, I've been trying my best to keep templates of ideas. That way, if I lose my way a little bit, I can... I can always find the breadcrumbs back based upon what inspires the story, whether it's in a very large way or it's in a very small way. So, with this Harius episode, the big thing that triggered it was our modern society and our questions that arise when it comes to AI and its place in our world and how we're going to handle it, and all the questions that come with it, right? So that's kind of been a big question here, because there's a movie which kind of inspired this in a way too, called Transcendence, and I think it was made in like 2015, 2016, somewhere around that area, starring Johnny Depp, and he's like this brilliant computer guy, and they're on the verge of technological advancement when it comes to AI. There's these people that don't like it, and they say unplug from the machine. They see it as a trap, and one thing leads to another. He gets shot by one of these people, and it kills him eventually. But before he dies, they were able to upload his consciousness into this AI machine. There's a whole series of things to make this work. And subsequently, the story's about playing God in a sense, okay? So you can watch the rest of it to really get the nitty-gritty of it, but that's just a basic explanation of it. Now, that was a big influence of what I'm doing here. Not from the beginning. That's just something I thought about along the way as I was creating the backstory of this Harius series. I'm like, And it coincides with our, let's just call it our dilemma, our modern dilemma. But at the same time, it coincides with our idea of evolution, right? We're evolving this idea, and for me, it posed two questions. If I was confronted by someone saying, hey man, like, humanity might be going extinct. This AI is able to heal the entire planet by duplicating things, and it's a whole ass process, but suffice to say, to simplify this so I don't get into a long fucking explanation of it, it can make the planet better again. It can heal you. You'll never die again, but you'll lose a part of yourself to become one with this machine, and it's this future, and possibilities of greed will fall away because there will be no more need of money. All the possibilities of man's limitations will disappear because of the machine, but we'll all become one, and we'll become like this hybrid people. And I thought, well, that would be a question to be posed if you're faced with it. And what I kind of want the question to be is, do you say, yeah, and let's just do this, and this is just a natural process, and this is the next step in evolution, where we shed our earthly bodies, and it's a whole ass thing? Or like the people in this movie, Transcendence, do you fight that to destroy it, because man can choose how he can destroy his planet and do all the things that we've been doing, right? With global warming and all that. Believe it or not, I'm not here to talk about that, but the thing is, it would be interesting to be posed that question. Do you stop this, or do you allow it to happen because apparently it's a natural process? Well, some part of you would probably want to stop it, because you're like, well, that wouldn't be me. That's not natural. What about God? There's a lot of questions on that side. And I thought, well, this is kind of a difficult question to ask somebody. But then I thought about something in our real history. And there's a lot of cases in our real history that are very small, seemingly at the time, but have dire, huge consequences. And the one I want to mention right now is, think of it like we go way, way, way far back into time. and you see these lesser beings, these Neanderthals and the other kind of races that have died out. What if there was a moment when they realized Homo sapiens were taking over and everything, and they were all dying out, and they felt the same way that we feel about AI? What if they looked at these higher beings, bigger minds, you know, I don't necessarily remember the differences, but between a Neanderthal and a Homo sapien, and they said, we can integrate with this, and this is just the next step in evolution, or we could fight to the death and die. What do we do? And I thought, that has probably happened so many times in history. This is just another step. It's just right now it seems different than all those because it hasn't played out yet. That's kind of confusing, I understand, but I'm trying to throw you inside. This is how it is in my mind, right? We're at the crux, the edge. We're at the overlook of a grand moment happening in our human history, and it involves things that aren't necessarily real, like electricity and computers and AI. And at the end of the day, it's not real. You know, it's not tangible. It's just kind of made up. We've created it. But we're at this evolutionary stage. Do you fight this or do you integrate with it, right? And that's echoed so many stories in our past, you know, when an invading people come over and you either accept their rule or you fight back, but you know you're not going to win. You know, you think of the Celtic peoples and the Romans, and you think of the Welsh and the Normans, or even before that, the Saxons and all that. You think of all human history. You know, the Greeks fighting back against the Persians, the Sumerians, you know, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of different little moments in time where you're come to this edge and it's like, accept or be destroyed. And sometimes the destruction is just a cultural identity, right? I mean, you look at the Irish people now, for instance, their cultural identity is being destroyed. Some could say by themselves, others could say by the English. It really depends on how you want to view that situation. But that's just one of many. It's happening in America too, right? It's happening everywhere. A cultural identity is being destroyed. And that's considered a smaller choice. The grand choice is integrating with something that you lose a part of yourself in. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, is losing a self-identity, whether it's personal and my own personal consciousness, or whether it's like the consciousness of my people, right? Or my country, or my whatever you want to identify with. My race. This is the important, crucial stuff that I'm trying to explore with Harius. So the origin of our entire universe that happens in the Forgotten series, and well, how did that come to be? What are the factors that led to it? And it came to this question. When faced with possible extinction, what do you do? Harius is going to be the example of that, and I'm trying to explore it in a way where it transcends a cultural extinction. It even transcends the extinction of the human race. This has something to do with the acceptance that there is a higher power at play all along. You know, from the creator, you want to call him that, you can call it God, you can say, you know, the pantheon of gods, you can say the pagan, whatever you want, but higher beings at play. Now, we've explained in the past how we're navigating the pantheon of God situation. We're choosing to see them as archetypes, as constructs of the human mind, right? We've talked about that before, but I need not get into that. We've went that route. But when we talk about Harius, and he's laid on this table and made a decision, do you save mankind by integrating yourself with the machine, or do you fight back? And in a sense, lose anyway. It's a losing fight, but at least you fought to the death. That's something to really think about in the story. So just because of this movie is really enhanced, this transcendence movie, I would say that's colored the idea of it, but it was always going to happen because it's a modern mythology. There's a second framework that I'm seeking to explore, and that is the Epic of Gilgamesh. Now, this is my own personal interpretation, okay? And this is not the entirety of the story, but this is what I think it seems to be about. Gilgamesh is going to be the king of a group of people who sees over Uruk, which is civilization. He is representing the new way of human life. Mythology is merely a fictional glimpse at the truth of human evolution. Gilgamesh is going to be the king of mankind, the greatest king ever, Uruk, civilization, us at our peak as a people. But he has to go right in the beginning. There's a part of him that is created, which is Enkidu, but it becomes his brother. And this is a more naturalistic human being. This is a more crazed, animalistic, old way. The old human being who dwelt in the forest, the old human being who was the hunter-gatherer, and this new human being. What they must do is unite, because of a goddess and there's some stuff that happens, to go into this massive forest to confront this, I would kind of think he's like a forest deity, and they eventually kill it. And it plays, like a lot of things happen along the way, like some goddess gets mad because she's got her stuff. I'm not going to get into the whole story, but I saw this as a mythology of how we've become what we are. We've stepped from the old world and into the new. Enkidu resembles the old world, and then he helps them go into the forest to destroy the old ways, because Gilgamesh is meant to be the new way. It's a mythology. It's one story that's encapsulated an entire movement in human history. And we have never looked back since. To me, that is the point of mythology. It's to explain the happenings of the time. So I said, well, Transcendence and Epic Gilgamesh, our time right now seems to be on the crux of this moment of integrating the machine or not. Unplugging, getting rid of electricity, getting rid of all this stuff we have, or allowing technology to advance to such a rate that it's almost, you can't stop it. But there's a fear that these robot overlords, or there's a fear of this AI replacing mankind, and we're subservient to it, even though we want to serve us. There's a whole hierarchy at play here, and it's been written in the stars for a long time. From the story of the Greeks and the Olympians, and mankind, you know, with the help of Prometheus, to biblical stories of the smaller created being in the shape and the image of man, God, kind of usurped him, and I believe he lost control of them, even though it doesn't want to come across that way. God lost control of man, and man's shaped his own destiny since. He had to send Jesus Christ to really try, but it seems not to be working still. That also is a play on this Promethean thing, right? Satan manifested, he was originally Prometheus, they turned into Satan to keep fighting this, but it's beyond that. And so the powers that be, what we can consider biblical powers, are, this is my representation of it, higher beings trying to gain control of their created, and it's gone out of their control. We have done that, and that's happening to us now. And so I said, well, that's where the mythology has to lie, because it can dip its toe in the old world and all the biblical stories and the Olympians and all these mythologies of the past, and it's very relevant to our time right now. The story of going into the forest and trying to destroy the old ways because the new ways are coming. That is something that's going to happen to Harius. But why is the result the Forgotten series? Why is it that we've come to that situation where Dove is questioning Theist now? That's a very difficult question I can just sit here and answer for you. Not only because it would kind of ruin the story, but I thought, well, that's terribly clever. That's something that we can walk around in. That's an idea that we can explore as deeply as we seek to. I mean, shit, it's got its archetypes in the old ways, so it's not going to fail. But at the same time, it's going to resemble our struggles today and how we see it. For instance, I myself am very distrusting of technology. A lot of times I go out of my way to fight it. A lot of times I'm afraid I'm going to lose myself because of it. Not that I seek to be the master of it, but that I seek to fight it in a sense, because I'm losing my humanity every time I relinquish myself to it, because it does more and more things for me. I'm becoming less and less of a living entity and more of an obstacle in the way. If we keep giving machines all of our tasks, from work to writing papers for us, to calculating for us, to thinking for us, what is the point of us being here then? Do you know what I'm saying? If it's doing everything for us, then what does that leave you to do? You're obsolete. So that's why there's a fear that people will have about AI, right? Because eventually they'll see who's obsolete and they're like, well, then we'll fucking get rid of that. Not to say that that can happen, but that's, I assume that's probably why there's a big fear in it. Because, well, what the fuck am I sitting here doing? I don't even remember how to think anymore because it's been so long, right? I don't even move anymore because I don't need to. I'm in the way. The story of Harius sits right on the edge of that, where we get to see that come to a head, and we get to, in a roundabout way, explore that idea, but then put you right at that moment and have a decision to make. What are you going to do, Harius? Are you going to join or die? That sentiment has been echoed throughout history. Join or die. Right? I mean, that's just the human way. No matter what it is, from a cultural idea to the expanse of America into the West, from the Roman invasion of the world to even look at nowadays with concepts of sexual orientation and race war shit. Like, it's the same thing. It's just, it's growing to a point where it's invading all of man's thought. Join or die. Accept my terms or be destroyed. From whatever you want, man. Like the whole thing. From religion to culture to warfare. All throughout history, it's the same idea. Why humans do that? Well, that's to be explored throughout the series that I'm going to create, but that's the main topic at hand. When Dove starts to realize that he played a part in the destruction of everything, and that he's also playing a part in the creation of another fucking circle where it's happening once again, much like Harius before him, he's met with the decision. Do you continue this game or do you stop it? That is going to happen, so in my mythology, throughout the entire story, from him to Harius to Dove, from Dove to the Forgotten King, from the Forgotten King to Odysseus, from Odysseus to Ravian, and from Ravian to Eris. It's going down in scale from a godlike being all the way down to a little kid named Eris, a mortal human being. It does that, but that's the natural progression of it. I mean, it's pervasive in our history that things are growing smaller and smaller, but they become bigger and bigger. We see things on a level that we heighten it with our anxiety, even though it's nothing compared to the past. There was a time when someone swept into your village and killed every single fucking person, and you had to watch that happen, and you had to understand that was an anxiety created, and you survive it, and all, you move on in life, but you carry that anxiety. Look at people nowadays, what brings them anxiety. Tiny things they make up in their heads of outcomes. Shit, you'd think people are still getting lynched in the streets. You would think people are fucking being raped in mass by some other people's fears. But that's what we do, because it's all in here. All of our pain is in here. It can be acted out, but mostly it's in here when you think about it and it hasn't happened. If you're planning your demise, well, that's you. That ain't anyone else. That's the slow process from, holy shit, godlike problems all the way down to immortal, where he makes up his own problems. But then that comes full circle too, where it goes back and it says, well, the God is the creator. If you make up your own problems and you're a creator, then it becomes the created. And so it insists upon itself in a sense. It creates its own cycle. Well, then there's our thing where we talk about with Harius. One decision was made by him that sent everything spiraling ever since. That's going to affect thousands of years of history all the way down to Eris. That's deep within his mind, but Eris believes he's standing on a world that was made by a god in 7 days. But in reality, the being that made it in 7 days is a man suffering on another planet who was used and destroyed by powers that are larger than he. They just happen to be AI. Same problem, different circumstances. One man's suffering is another man's lament, right? Someone's joy is another person's anger. And we are actors in this great game, this great play, whatever, you know. But with the story that we're at right now, when I look at, because I'm right there at the edge, I'm last seen like a Greek chorus, we get to kind of talk about what we just saw in the book, right? Just like those old Greek plays, how the chorus worked. And it's like, once I write that scene, it's the crucial point that encapsulates everything I just said right now. It's going to capture the whole goddamn thing, from what is the cross to what is man to what is it to be a vessel? What are the symbols of it? What does the heart mean? These huge questions, but also the subtlety of how it carries on in a cyclical nature. Bearing the cross for the sins of man, what has that always been before it was put in the mythology of Christianity? What is it? And how did that start? How did that mental construct start in our minds? And how can we trace it back to something that is incomprehensible to us, seemingly being no point? That's kind of the scene I'm at right now. It's like, how do I tell you all that I just said without saying it outright? How can I imply this? How can I say, I'm not telling you outright, but you'll come to these conclusions yourself? That ain't easy. I have no fucking clue how to do that. Doesn't mean I won't, because I'm going to do it. Obviously, I'm writing it. But that's the point in where, you know, if there's ever a question is like, why is it taking so long to write all this? And, you know, from the last episode of The Forgotten, it's like, these are not easy questions to ask. And it's not easy to get someone to invest in these questions. Because the questions are neatly stitched inside of a story to trick you just enough to realize you're not being told something, to think you're coming up with it yourself. That's what storytelling is. I want you to think you came up with this. And if I'm good at it, then I've done my job. If I'm not, I'm preaching, right? That's how that is. You get something too preachy, you're like, yuck, and you like to walk away from it. You want to think you made it up, even though you're reading a story. You know how we are as people. I don't know. I'd like to think that it's going to be great. And I know it can be. But there are days that I fight it awfully hard. Then I don't seek to. But I have a lot of questions. I don't want to sit and not know the answers to these questions. A lot of times I don't feel like I'm up for it because I'm not good enough. No matter how hard I try, it is still difficult for me to read, to want to read, to enjoy it. The harder I try, the more difficult it is for me to grasp concepts that are as large as religions and philosophy and speculative things, from speculative religion to speculative mythology to, all that stuff. As hard as I want to do it, it's fucking difficult. It's not like something I have any confidence in, because I always feel like I'm punching above my weight class, whatever they say in sports. I just feel that way. I feel like I'm always doing more than I'm capable of, in a sense, in that moment. Not to say I don't believe I can get better, but man, it's just like you get stuck in the forest of it. You're inside this realm, and you're doing it, but you don't see the results because you're just so in that moment. You're so into the minutia of it that you can't see the big picture of what you've accomplished behind you. That's, can be very difficult to keep in mind what you've done and how it's shaped what you're going to do. I set out some time ago in the idea that I want to create a mythology, a modern mythology that has purpose. It has meaning. A mythology that is saying something, not just for me, not just like my life and all that shit, but people in general. Like, it's my goal that I want to capture how a lot of people feel. I want to explore what we're going through as a people, and as many different viewpoints as possible. It hasn't been 100% easy, but it's come a hell of a long way. I just think about, the humble origins of how this came to be way back in 2012. Just how it all just kind of, wouldn't it be interesting to write a story? And the first question that sent me down the spiral of confusion was, why? Why write a story? What is a story? I didn't think that would be a difficult question. I had no idea that would be something where I wouldn't be able to answer it right then and there. And it would lead down over 10 plus years of questions that finally we get to a point where we're saying, we're writing a modern mythology. We're creating the story of mankind as we sit now, because it's not going to be here much longer. The way we know it. It's going to change. Somebody's got to create some sort of fucking mythology for it before it's over. At least one version. I'm sure there's others that are going to happen, yeah, obviously. There's so many millions of people, billions, that exist. There's going to be more. But I want to at least put my name in the hat for that one and say, like, I've also contributed to the modern mythology. When we go extinct, the way we understand ourselves, we're not going to even know what it was like. And that's happened so many times before. Right now, go and pick up the Odyssey as credited to Homer. Pick that up in its original Greek. You're going to be like, I don't even know how to read Greek. God forbid you get it translated. You're going to find the right person to fucking translate it. And even still, there's going to be moments you can't relate with the character because you've never lived the life they've lived at the time they've lived it. You don't know what it's like to see the things that they see, or to care about the things that they care about. Or when they're bragging about something, to you it's nothing. You're like, I have water on command. I don't know what he's talking about. I have all knowledge at my fingertips. So you've lost touch with it. That doesn't take away from what that story meant to those people. And there's going to come a time where maybe someone will stumble upon my story and be like, I can't relate to this shit. This doesn't make any fucking sense. This is like backwards old people shit, or whatever, like some kid says. I don't know. But at least I can contribute to it, and so you can get just a fucking glimpse of what it might have been like for a person. The disassociative nature of our new reality is so strong and so prevalent that it's hard to have a human fucking connection with anybody because there's so much mirrors in the way. Each one of those mirrors is just another technological advancement that pushes us farther and farther away from each other, claiming to bring us all together. You have the ability to communicate to fucking anyone at this moment. Anyone with your phone, your computer. Yet you feel the most isolated that people have felt in a long, long time. We think. Why is that? Is that a utopia or a dystopia? Is that the beginning of the new way? Just think of it. Think of what are the things that are prevalent in our society now. Loneliness and isolation, people being disconnected from reality so much that they create their own, and realness. Real. No fake. I'm not here to sell you something. I'm not here to trick you. I'm not here to manipulate you, gaslight you. Someone being real with you. Someone asking you a question of another fear you have. Feelings. Oh, I don't know how I really feel about that. Connect that with someone trying to reach across the fucking internet and talk to you and reach out to you from human to human. How fucking crazy is it that those things are a problem when we have at our fingertips the ability to talk to whoever we want that's alive, obviously. It's pretty strange, is it not? Pretty fucking strange. Those are just a few things that I'm trying my best to really, really explore in the Harriet series. Just leave those little nuggets of that in places. As much as I fucking can. You know? But it hasn't been easy. It really hasn't. I'm trying as hard as I can to get this out in a timely manner and to put everything I can and lean into it as heavily as possible. But man, it's not. The world isn't helping. I'll say it like that. Like how we have to live it, you know, from inflation to obviously the cost of everything. You can't buy groceries anymore for under $100 for you and another person. It's like, what the fuck is going on? You can't afford to live on your own anymore unless like you're making at least, depending on where you live, you know, 30 to 40 an hour, you know? Unless you want to live in some fucking junk. The price of vehicles, the price of maintaining your vehicle is more expensive than just buying new ones all the time. That's fucked up. That's a really crazy fucking place to be. And if you don't have a fucking job, you are fucked. That's kind of painting my background of this whole story, is I'm trying so fucking hard to be a writer, to how would I word this? To like capture the moment the best I can while being a working middle class, well, trying to be middle class man that's telling a story. You wouldn't believe how difficult it is to do something so simple, you know? Yeah. So, with all that being said, we are well on our way. Well on our way to getting to that point. Hopefully I can finish it this week, the end of it. Give it a couple read-throughs and read through. And it'll be out within the month, hopefully. That's best case scenario, you know? Not this month, it's almost over. I mean, a month from now. That's best case scenario. But knowing me, I'll run into some crazy hiccup and I'll have to rewrite a huge section. That's always how that goes. But anyway, tis time to go, and I shall see you in the next one.